Welcome to That Young Cineast. My name is Matthew GoodDay, and I am That Young Cineast. As always, we are joined by Kaylin Mendez.
Hello.
We got two special guests today, two students from Chapman University. If you guys could introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jack Wolf Perry. I'm a senior directing student.
And I am Matias Herrera. I am a junior screenwriting student here at Chapman University.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. By the way, this podcast is about me setting benchmarks and updating my journey through filmmaking. So today is May 20th, and it's the first episode of May, so just noting that down. Okay, so just as the basis, what got you guys into filmmaking and what made you major in that in college?
Oh, me first. So it's funny, this was mentioned just briefly before the podcast, this idea that you want to talk to film students who went into college with film in mind. I didn't do that. I actually went into college not totally aware of what I wanted to do. I had a vague sense that I'd like to be an actor, and I did even audition for the school's acting program before kind of being disillusioned with it. And I spent a lot of time I spent a lot of time middling away in a major that I didn't like that much, very strongly considering dropping out. And this is going to be, I think, very flattering for Jack, but the reason that I think I joined Dodge, which is the film school here at Chapman University, and the reason that I so fervently pursued it was because I happened to accidentally into a living situation with him. And his general fervor for film was very infectious, and I found myself constantly doing it. I remember very specifically that when I started moving in with him, I was clearly going through a manic episode, and I was like, Jack, you're gonna help me make a short film to apply for the film major. You know, that thing that gets one intra-transfer student per semester? That's gonna be me. And then we had a real talk at 1 a.m. where it's like, dude, this is we gotta chill the hell out. Also, just get into Dodge. It's not about the program, it's about the community. And so I ended up going for screenwriting, and I think that's been the best decision for me. I'm answering in way too much detail at this point, and I'll pass it off to Jack in a moment. But the point is, I didn't come into school with film in mind. I found it. I'd been an actor in high school in much cringier circles. And I carried that love for performance, and I happened to just keep finding the right people. And I think that that's largely what film school has been about and should be about, which is finding the right people. But Jack?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I am a stereotypical film kid because I knew from when I was 11 years old that I wanted to do it. And so I was doing every class in high school, every summer camp I could do. And so I always knew that I wanted to be a director. And then on top of that, I also got kind of lucky because I have some directing friends who are studying directing who now have realized they don't want to be directors. And so I also fell into where I happen to want to be when I learned more about what directing is. And so I don't have as much of a long or in-depth answer as Matias because I have a very simple story. I just knew when I was little, and I got lucky in that's what I stayed in my passion.
What was kind of that when you were a kid? That thing, that moment that you were like, yeah, this is, I mean, you said you'd wanted to do it for a long time. So what was, if you can remember, what was that moment for you?
I absolutely remember. I had my mom's iPhone in my left hand and I had a Nerf gun in my right hand. So it was like a first person video game movie. And I made my best friend and my brother chase me around in zombie masks. And since then I've been trying to chase that high.
It's like a first-person shooter,
exactly.
but in movie form. No,
I would have directed someone, but I had to be one of the actors holding the camera as well.
That's how it is. No, I've helped Matthew with some of his short films as well, and it's really like we're handing the camera off to each other, and if one of us is on screen, then the other one is behind the camera. Like it's definitely one of those things that you got to work with what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When it came to amateur filmmaking before college, what was it like going into an emphasis, like before college, usually in amateur, you would be doing almost everything, but what was it like trying to figure out exactly what kind of work you want to be doing on the set?
I love that question. I have an answer that I've thought a lot about for this, because I came in, I think, like most, directing students, thinking that directing is a much larger job than it is. Because in high school, in all your amateur stuff, you're doing every job, and you don't realize that those are actually split up into either a dozen or hundreds, and sometimes, many, many hundreds of jobs. And so freshman year was realizing when I am stepping on someone else's toes without trying to, like a producing student, because I was doing the producing without realizing it in high school. And I think when I said I was lucky before, I was lucky in that of all the jobs on a film set, directing was the slice that I did want to happen to do. And I was an orientation leader this year, and I was orientating some producing students and telling them that they will meet directors who don't know they're overstepping, and that they have to first learn what their job is so that they can tell other filmmakers where they all fit together. So I love that question.
That's really funny. Sorry to jump in, but it's funny because I feel like I went in with the exact opposite understanding, because I started as an actor in high school, and so when I started getting into sets here, I always understood my exact, like, no, don't even look at the director or he'll punch you in the head. That's not true. That no one's ever punched me in the head
Yet.
But hey, remember that time you threw me on the floor for a set? And I was in handcuffs.
We'll explain that story later.
Okay.
But it's very funny to hear you come from the exact opposite. Like you were so generally educated, and I think that's just been an interesting part of film school for me, is learning the other roles and learning the ways that you are allowed to step into other roles. I think something that again, this is maybe a topic for later, something that Dodge does a little bit poorly is this kind of holistic approach, or I think I'm using that appropriately, where each role, each emphasis is very narrowly designed. And very recently, I was thinking about this, Jack and I went to the TV screenings, which is a major that is being nuclear bombed.
Gutted? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad because I think their skill is very clearly demonstrated in how small that major is, and the fact that everyone in that major is doing everything. Like you have someone who usually directs doing sound, and then for another shooting it, or so on and so forth. And I've noticed that some of the, let's say, weaker student films that I've seen from Dodge have been, I think, as a result of like directing students only being educated in directing and only understanding what that very specific role is. And it's something that I think I've noted to Jack before. Like, I think Jack's talent in directing, especially when it comes to talking to actors, is the fact that he is a skilled actor himself, and it's something he's done before. But sorry, I definitely got us on a tangent there, and I stole Jack's answer.
So thank you again.
Yeah.
Just to go back a little bit, Matias, you said you were an actor in high school, but did that include short films as well, or were you strictly like just school play kind of thing, or community plays?
No, it was always school plays, and I knew that I had a strong passion for it. I grew up engrossed in story video games and watching movies and TV and observing them in ways that I think my peers really didn't. And I think that came off in me doing stage acting. But no, it was weird. Film was a thing I knew I wanted to do because that's where the money is. But I don't think I ever really understood it or was in it or yada yada until college. And it felt like such a weird transition because I was like, why would I ever do stage? Yeah. I have my own version of like, how did you start? But I think that's a little bit more long-winded, and we can talk about that later.
And you've been talking for a long time.
I really have. There's no sentences with me, just paragraphs.
No, I think we have a similar background where I also went into college not knowing what I wanted to do. And I was following a major that I didn't know if I wanted to follow. And then it came, sophomore year, I was like, I think I want to go into journalism. And there was a moment, and I know you talked about it being rooming with Jack. But how has that kind of transition been? Were you in like a major that wasn't even related to writing at all?
I actually bounced between 3 majors. I came in as an undeclared major, which counts here at Chapman, and then I was briefly a creative writing major, and then I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I became a psychology major. Then I bounced back to creative writing, and then it became screenwriting. There was a lot of I didn't really know what I wanted. I mean, I think it shows in the fact that I was just bouncing around. There was that brief stint in creative writing, but I hated the program so much. I thought it was so mind-numbing. It just felt like an English program. So my bad, Morgan Reed Davidson, who is the director of the program. If he's listening to this podcast, I love you. But like, it was just such a... one of the things that convinced me I needed to do something that was more exciting was the creative writing program. Because I thought to myself, of course, this is what I want to do, because I want to creative write. I like doing that. I used to get awards for that in high school. And now I'm like, no, this is miserable. I hate this. And it connects to none of my big talky things that I like to do. So, yeah.
And have you guys worked on a project together, or
so basically since we met, basically every project? Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Jack and I just got finished directing something together, and if we're not directing something together, Jack is casting me in his movies where he stuffs me in oxygen deprivation costumes or literally beats the crap out of me.
Hold on, no, I okay. There's some validity to that. I get listen. I told Matias this as a half joke, but it's also very true, which is that I give him the really difficult or grueling roles because I know he'll do them for me.
No, you did. Okay, I need to tell a story. We were doing.
Is this the handcuff story?
Yes. We were doing a short called A Soul and a Dime, which is an Old West short. And in my opinion, some of the most fun acting I've done, because it was grueling and it was fun and emotional and yada yada. And he got these like black steel handcuffs that were like so uncomfortable. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, you can slip out of them. They're like fake handcuffs. It was like you had to. Can I curse? Am I allowed to curse for this?
Go ahead.
we can
Such
bleep
an
it out.
asshole. Because you had to take them off, you had to use this ridiculous turnkey that went 9 times to untighten it. And it was behind my back, and I had to lay down because my character's paralyzed on the floor of the desert. And I was working with an actor. This is the concussion. I was working with an actor who's so method. So he slammed me into the floor at Mach fuck. Missed the Fernie pad, obliterated the back of my skull. And Jack has the gall, las bolas, to kneel down next to me, day 2. And he puts his hand on my shoulder and he's like, I give you the easy rolls. I was fuming. Whenever I needed to talk to Jack, I would yell to the nearest PA and be like, hey, can someone get my hack director over here? I couldn't stand up. I was handcuffed. I had to do some gymnast shit to get off the floor. So Jack gets easy rolls.
He's like, all right, hey,
yes,
we'll do another take. We'll do another take. He's just like, all right, that was great. One more take.
One of the most validating experiences of doing that short was, and it's something that I've realized now because Jack and also our roommate Liam, who's also a director, pointed out that I do. One of the most validating parts of that for me creatively was the character's dying, or at the very least hoping he will. And there was this very emotional scene right in the core of it where the character has to have just this massive, not massive actually, this quite subdued breakdown that's all right, you're gonna die. And I had such an easy time I had an easy time getting there because I was able to connect with the circumstances so viscerally on account of the searing pain through my occipital lobe. But also Jack's very effective directing. And I remember what was so validating about it was action, boom, I would have the moment and it would come together great in my opinion. And then Jack I like telling this story. Jack recounted this afterwards of how shocked he was to like walk up to me and expect, because usually he works with an actor and they're still in that headspace afterwards, and he would expect to like talk to me and still have to deal with me being very emotional. And he would walk up and be like, all right, how are you feeling? And I'll be like, pretty good.
It was awesome.
It's like, I just come right out of an emotional breakdown. Like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Do you want to do another one? Yeah, I mean, if you're feeling it. And then he'd be like, all right, cool, action. Like, just like immediately right back into it.
I need to quickly compliment Matias as an actor. We're going way off track.
No, you're good.
All of this is great.
I've told Matias this, that especially his voice, but also his emotional tools. He has some sort of internal dial in him. They just gets to turn up and down. And when he was doing the accent for this character from the Old West, we were reading the script together, and he would just kind of change it up and up and up and up until we found the right balance of how Western, how kind of timid he was. And so that moment really, it was impressive, but it wasn't that much of a surprise because I knew he had that in other facets of his acting toolkit.
Thank you.
Now, I know you guys are complimenting each other on your directing and your acting, but do you think as a director, Jack, do you think it's I don't know, sometimes it can be easier to direct friends, sometimes it's harder to direct friends. Do you find it, I don't know, how do you find that when you've had to work with people that you know so well, or if you've had to work with these other actors that maybe are just in your program you don't know as well?
That's a good question. That's a challenging question. I mean, of course, Matias is my go-to, and even if I don't picture him immediately, I know that he can fit into whatever that is. And I think with actors that I either am meeting because of that set, you kind of are taking a gamble on what it'll be like collaboratively. I suppose I try to keep my gambles pretty safe. Like, it'll more often be someone that I'm adjacent to, or we have mutual friends and I can kind of ask about them before. So yeah, it's only been a couple times on sets where I fully found someone brand new from either backstage or Facebook or whatever it was. Yeah.
I also have an answer to this question because I too have directed, and I got to say that is a very good question because I think you've worked with more friends throughout college. But I've gotten very lucky that when I've directed to work with, I think, a pretty even distribution. This last thing that Jack and I co-directed was more friends than it was, just due to the sensitive nature of the script, and we wanted it to be friends. But I got to say, I think regardless of whether you know the person or not, it's always going to be something of a mixed bag unless you've worked with that person a lot. Because you'll work with, God knows I've had the experience of you work with a friend and you think it'll be perfect, and it's actually quite complicated because that's work, right? Like it's like working with your friend doing food service. You might realize that your friend sucks and needs to be shot and killed, and
their food's terrible. Yeah.
But that's But I think I don't know about you. I think I've found it more interesting routinely to work with strangers, especially because you get such a wide. I've worked with some people who are very eccentric, and I've worked with some people who are like, you're just like, wow, why aren't you famous? Whereas with friends, I think you build a preconceived notion of them, and you build certain expectations that you might bring into crafting a project. That you don't get with strangers. But anyway, I just wanted to add that.
I know that generally filmmaking is a whole collaborative process, but the way I think of colleges is like you set your major and that's what you're pretty much studying for the rest of like your 2 years after your prerequisites. I don't know. I'm in high school. This is what I'm guessing. But when it comes to film school, like, you guys are working with each other so often. How is that like distributed like academically? Like, are you assigned something and then you end up your two majors are able to like coincide with each other to get like graded or anything? How does that work?
Yeah, I think on top of that, or added to that, these projects that you're talking about, are they actually for school projects or is it just for fun?
That's a good question. This semester, I kind of banked up my classes so that this semester's been my easiest academic semester, and so I've put all that time towards independent project, which is why we have more to talk about than we did maybe a year ago. And it has been a mix. There's only through school has only been 3 projects that directing students are required for. And so my thesis, Matias, was in that, and so that I very intentionally we worked on that the whole time. And then the independent things, it's all a mix. Like sometimes it'll be a script that we both want to make, or I bring it to him. But it's more independent, and since he's a screenwriting student, they have been trying for a long time to become more involved in the production side of the Dodge world, because they're not
welcome. I mean, we're just not.
Well, they're not given opportunities to have projects made the way that directors are given their thesis for the year or something.
It's true. Production students at Dodge are given a modest budget for their advanced productions, which is their junior thesis, and then they're giving quite a hefty budget for their thesis productions in their senior year, in the range of $8,000 to $15,000 on average. And screenwriting students just don't generally get to do that. They're not barred from participating in the production in any way, but there are certain incentives for production students to specifically include other production students, and so on and so forth. And so, just mimicking exactly what Jack said, there are only really 3 students that most production students will do. So most of the stuff that he and I do together are independents. Most of the things that all of the things that I've directed have been independent projects, and most of the things I write are independent projects. And truthfully, I chose the screenwriting major sort of intentionally, not just because I liked writing, but because I knew it was going to afford me the most amount of time to get away from the desk. Because something that I think Jack can attest to is, were he not working so hard on his thesis last semester, he might have come away from this school year with 6 independents as opposed to just the 3. Not that 3 is anything to scoff at. It's more than any of the students that I know in his year have done this semester, but yada, yada.
Also, I think it's clear how much we love each other, and I'm sorry if we are like talking each other up the whole time.
We just did a movie where we were gay lovers, and it screamed, and I think that really, that's it.
It carried over. It carried over into your friendship, and you're
and now we kiss
for it.
So if we're ever loving on each other too hard, just
no. I think especially when you're able to work with close friends like that, it's special. It's
Jack and I get into really violent fights on set, and we hit each other, and there's a lot of screaming, but we always make everyone really uncomfortable by making out afterwards. And just
they're like, cut. And you're like,
that's not in the script. What are you doing?
What are you doing? You guys hate each other. Nothing like that, but my film experiences in college were also with friends, just doing things for fun. Scripts that my friend would write and want to direct and make, and hairy situations, filming in public and things like that for fun. But I think it's cool when you have those friends you can work with. So
I know, Jack, you're graduating in like 3 days. After 4 years of film school, and Matias, you could also help a little bit. For high school students like me, what do you advise for them to prepare for, like get to know, or skills that they should learn in preparation for tackling film school?
Great question.
That's a really good question. I think that for the most part, young film students go in thinking they know a lot, and then they get humbled. And I feel like I've been humbled a lot, especially by my thesis and in previous years. And my dad told me recently that I guess there's this pattern that most people studying a very particular skill set go through, which is that they start off learning, then they think they know everything, and then they realize they know nothing, and then they work up from there. And there's more steps after that. But I feel like a lot of my peers, which just happens at this age, like in your late teens, early 20s, that's the process. And so I think be prepared to become you'll realize that you have to become a sponge of information, not just a sharer of what you think you've already learned. And there's a younger director I was just working on a project with, and it was clear how stiff they were in a very particular mindset, and it was detrimental to my the way I was able to work on set. And so I was trying to tell them after, and they were very rigid about it. And I tried to phrase it like, "Hey, I also had to learn this. Please listen to me. I'm trying to help you," because I had the same issue when I was that year in film school. And so I think, and also Matias and I were just talking about this. I think we all need a healthy level of self-doubt, or else you're not gonna want to learn.
Yeah. To help, as said, I mean, like, your question, I think, was phrased in preparation for the real world a little bit, and I'll answer my end of that. By the way, to credit where it's due to myself, I essentially graduate next semester. I will be graduating a little bit earlier.
Congrats.
In quotations. I will have one very, very easy class my spring semester, so I'm treating it like what it is.
So it's your free semester, basically.
In essence, yeah. And I mean, the thing that I think that everything that Jack has just said is something I think I would have said if he didn't. And what I would add to that is whatever school you choose, I do strongly recommend Chapman. I mean, the classes here, or excuse me, not the classes, the people here are where you go. And that's where, great, good transition, Matias. You're not going, like, no, but genuinely, I don't know a single film school that you're going to go to for the program, for the classes, for the, oh man, they have this teacher, they have this, that, and that stuff, frankly, I really don't. It's helpful, and there are things you should learn, but at the end of the day, I think 90% of what you need to be doing to learn how to do film, and you've heard this a million times, I'm sure, is to watch and to do. The reason that Chapman has been so educational for me as a screenwriting major is because I didn't stop there. I auditioned constantly. I put together my own projects. I wrote my own stuff. I worked with the people I liked working with, and so on and so forth. And then in the real world preparation sense, career-wise, I think on the topic of Jack's like healthy level of self-doubt, something that I see in a lot of students is this idea of like, there's this very contradictory like, the things I'm doing after I graduate are significantly more interesting than everyone else. And also, everything is chaos, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I think this is born of the general film student idea that we're all going to get famous the second it's all over, Don't. It's a job. The reason you go to a school like Chapman is because that's going to guarantee that you will work. One of the best things I ever heard in a master class here was from a seasoned professional, someone who was an executive at Gersh and then now an executive somewhere else, like a high, I forget what her actual title is yes, the industry is very hard to break into for everyone else. Not for you guys. You guys are here at film school. There's a reason that you guys are here, and you guys are the ones we're looking for. And I think that is, I think that's comforting and will allow someone who's graduating from a film school to feel a little bit better about themselves. But I also think it's a good thing to remind yourself that, this is a job. This is an industry. This is something I'm going to be doing professionally. And I think it's a very comforting thing to go, all right, all I need to really do to make sure that I exist in this space that I love is keep making, keep watching, and the last 10% is pick up a couple internships when you can.
Yeah, real quick on that. Part of why I tried to make the semester pretty clear to do independent projects that we mentioned is because I am very, very scared that I won't have those opportunities right out of film school. And I know that here, the promise of film school is that you'll be with people who want to be doing this. And so all of our projects were with friends who wanted to work for free with us as a friendship collaboration. And so that's one of the good things of film school is that you can build your resume and your career, and it's also really fun to do it with friends. But that was a driving factor, was that I don't know if I will be able to with 5% of that same ease after we graduate.
And I mean, I think that leads us into what are your plans moving forward? I mean, you're about to graduate, talking about this fear of what comes next, I guess, in your projects. Does that mean working together still? How does that look for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I have. I mean, I have like a PA gig, film festival, internship, stuff like that. All the classic post grad film student jobs and like music video stuff. But Matias is doing some independent projects over the summer that I'm sure we'll be collaborating on. And then I know that because of our friendship, when he's also fully graduated, I know that we will find time to still do them. I think that will be balanced with the actual, maybe more stressful real world jobs that we're both getting individually,
Mm.
Yeah.
Little backtrack a little bit away from the real stuff, like scary jobs.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but Jack and I have actually below the camera both ourselves.
But when it came to those independent films, were you able to submit to festivals and stuff like that? And if so, how was that process?
Well, the three that we have talked about, one is 95% done, getting finished in like the next week and a half. The other two are further down in post production. So we can't answer about those ones yet. Hopefully, we will have an answer about festivals for those later down the line.
Yeah. There's one that, I mean, not that this answer is particularly interesting, but there is one that there's a pilot I directed about a year ago that is in the process of getting re-edited, and then I'm going to have it recolored over the summer. And the idea is to submit it to festivals. But I think the festival question is usually always the same, which is it's long, tedious, and pretty expensive. I mean, that's the film student, vibe. Tiny piece of advice for you, and Dodge does this very intelligently with its students. Keep a reserve. When you budget for your movies, when you fundraise for your movies, try and just keep like 200, 400, whatever little chunk of money you can from the budget to save for submissions. Because, and if not, boom, now you've learned a very important lesson about saving money, and you can put that towards the next movie. Like, because at the end of it, once you're done with that post-prod process, you're going to have money, and you're going to go, great, this movie is good enough to submit, or cool, I had the practice, and now I'll put this towards the next thing. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on the submission process.
I know we're getting close on end of time, but just wanted to see like if you guys wanted to plug anything, if any of those movies that or any.
Want to plug all 19 things you have?
Okay. Well, sure. I mean, it's not finished, but keep an eye out for a short film called Butterfly Farm. It's dedicated to one of my childhood friends who passed away, and it's my most precious, special thing. And I think it's my strongest thing because it was recent. So I'm a senior. I used everything I learned the past 4 years. And I also called that crew my Avengers Endgame crew because it was everyone I loved working with the past 4 years to make like my favorite group of people. So that's the one I have a very good feeling about. And because of the content and kind of the mission with it, I hope that people who were in the same situation as I was with my friends can take something very positive from this movie.
Real quick on that, I just want to say that as someone who when I first connected with Jack, it was over the concept for this movie, and also the fact that he and I had situations that rhymed. I lost someone at a similar age, yada yada. And my experience is less important. My point is, please do keep an eye out for it. And the reason I say that is because Jack allowed me the honor of fake directing it for a day when he was acting in it. And Jack knows that I am kind of viscously critical of student films, especially around Dodge. I feel very cringy saying something like this, but genuinely what that movie is very special. I mean, Jack knows. I was sitting behind the camera. I was sitting behind the DP, like just crying watching the performance. DP's just like, but like genuinely, it's magic, and I kept saying that to him in between every take. That's a great one.
If we have time, could I share kind of like the mission of the?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Our time is your time is whatever.
Okay,
Go
thank
ahead.
you.
Yeah, we're on your time.
Well, I feel very passionate about it because that the passing of my friend is the hardest thing of my life, like by far, no question. And a lot of the student films I see about grief, they use grief as a blanket to say this character is suffering without giving them any sort of specific problem besides that they are in grief, or they use it to say, hey, the stakes are high because death is what the issue is. And I feel really bothered by that because to me, his death wasn't what bothered me. It was the very specific things that happened because of it, with relationships changed or feeling certain gaps in parts of my life. And so this project is trying to be different than the grief projects that did really bother me as someone who was grieving. And the main mission of this project is to show that grief can be very, very positive. And I made it 4 years after he passed away, and I kept working on the script the whole time, and it evolved into this thing that is almost a celebration of the positive parts of grief, which is that now you get to connect with people in a very, very special way. Like Matias and I were talking about a minute ago, we connected over losing someone, and that was in our first real conversation, which is part of why we're great friends now. And so that movie shows the main character with new people, that he has a new friend and he has a new romantic relationship, and they're both connecting on very different grief stories. But it shows that even though you're carrying this very heavy thing, it gives you this really, really incredible connecting point, and there's so much growth with connections and personal identity growth that can come out of that. And my main hope is that people who watch it can take that mission and say, oh, this can be very positive, and I can have some control over it. And it's the movie that I wish so badly I had seen after my friend passed away. And I think that's part of why I really think it will connect with people, is because I know that I needed to have seen that movie.
And I think that's so powerful. I've had those connections too. And I think, especially when you've lost somebody, sometimes you're kind of just in the midst of everything. And like you said, sometimes something like this, where it shows that there's hope in these connections, in these little moments that can help you get through it, that like, it's important to watch at those times, I think, to remind yourself that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a fun movie. That's the thing, is that it's fun to watch. People are laughing with each other, talking about people, and there's flirting coming out of the grief, and yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll definitely have to check that out and look out for it.
Thank you.
It's great.
Well, I think that's towards the end of our time. Thank you, Jack and Matias, for hanging with us for like 40 minutes. Thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you so much. These were wonderful questions.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Also, Liam is sorry he couldn't make it. Genuinely, he would have if he could have. But this was also like, genuinely, this was lovely because this felt like a nice little wrap up for Jack and I's creative time together. You know, we just got to shoot the shit about it. It was great. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, that was our guests, Jack and Matias. I think they were pretty chill.
Those kinds of interviews are my favorite to do.
Yeah, I think I was able to open up a little bit more towards the end, but you know, those guys, the vibe, immaculate.
No, immaculate.
Carries the vibe.
Gosh, I love talking to people who just come in with a personality and
yeah.
It's so easy. It's so easy. You ask them questions, they go off, and they bring the humor and the information.
I do want to say that, like, I was looking at the meeting, and I'm also looking at myself in the meeting. I look very unamused a lot of the time, but I really am just enjoying it. I really was just enjoying it the whole time.
Yeah, I'm like laughing, and I look over, and Matthew's like,
no, because I'm like, I have to lock in for the next question because I don't know what I'm gonna ask next. But
yeah,
I guess that's something I need to learn, but I had fun. I mean, I don't know if they noticed that I had fun, but I had fun.
No,
Hopefully
it seemed like they had fun too. Regardless if they thought you weren't having fun, it looked like they had fun.
Yeah.
What have you been up to? Any updates?
Oh yeah, recent events. I totally forgot that was the point of this podcast. I just
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing of note.
Well, I did get. I mean, the way that Jack was describing his best work, I forgot some Butterfly Farms or something. I'm so sorry. I forgot what it was called, but the way that he was describing it had so much meaning behind it, and the scene that I'm writing for next episode, there is some sort of emotional like meaning I want to challenge or like I want to channel in the writing, but just the way that he understood his story so thoroughly that he could express it through just pure emotion and not giving us plot is something that I really want to like attempt to try at in this one scene. And I was also watching Instagram, and there's this guy that takes comments and turns it into a movie scene, and it says write a scene about, or like write a scene in a movie about like a lover lost in the woods or something like that. And the way that he writes the scenes is sort of like a snippet from the movie, but is it entirely just one location? I guess it's something that he uses different settings and like flashbacks and stuff like that to establish the context for the viewer rather than just clipping into the scene. So maybe attempting at that as well with like different locations and further context will enhance the emotion behind the scene that I'm writing. But I only say that because originally I was just like imagining there's a giant script and I just cut into the middle of it and that's what I'm writing. But in reality, that the way that I want to channel emotion in this next one, you have to know the context, or you like it's better to know the context behind their connections and stuff like that. So maybe like Jack inspired me to dive further into that and actually reminded me to do that. So maybe look out for that. I might be overhyping it a little bit because I don't know how well my writing is. I don't know if I heard Matias gruesomely like critiques short films and stuff like that, student films, but hopefully it's not that bad. But if it is, I'll just learn from it. So
yeah.
I'm gonna say this in the next episode, but the scene that I'm writing is I'm going into it expecting to be the scene that I'm filming in the summer or attempting to film in the summer. Okay. So it's going to be more grounded. And I realized that halfway through writing it, I was like, oh, I still haven't wrote it. I'm like getting off school in a little bit and I haven't written a scene that I'm able to film yet. So I'm going to be attempting to try to finalize that.
Okay.
Well,
or we do the scene read and then we bring him on for the next episode where we redo the scene read but with him and see how that differs.
Double scene read.
Double scene read. Triple scene read.
See, I don't know about people reading my I don't know about giving my script to actors yet, but I guess that's the whole point of this podcast is really to push myself forward.
Yeah, and I mean even if it's just him and he's the actor we bring on as a guest, he can go from there. No.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
That was awesome.
That was so fun.
May 20th.
Yeah.
Cool interview. Done.
I also have an idea for a future scene read where I give you the first line and the last line, and the rest of the script is yours to do, but you have to go from the first line to the last line somehow. If you're down for that.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, I'm down for that.
Okay, we'll figure out when, but when we're ready,
cool.
I'll give it to you. I'm thinking.
Yeah, so it's kind of like similar to the thing I saw on Instagram, and I saw it on TikTok a lot.
No, that's funny that you said that because I was going to bring it up this episode, and then you said that, and I was like, perfect. It's like similar.
Yeah. So yeah, I really want to attempt at a prompt, which I don't know. Usually things are easier with the prompt because it kind of gives you an idea, but yeah, that's the general sense of it.
There's a literary journal called the First Line Literary Journal, and their whole premise is everyone submits to this prompt, and the prompt is just it has to start with this first line. And you can't change the line. It has to be the same for every project that submits. And so every journal that comes out is just like 5 or 6 stories, maybe more, I forget, of all these stories are very different, but they all start with the same line, and it's very
Whoa.
interesting to see how different people take it. And then they have a last line literary journal for the end of the year.
So you want to combine the both and
that's what
see what I do
inspired.
with it.
Yeah, to see what happens if I give you the first line and the last line, and then you have to plot something to get from point A to point B.
Speaking of college and like attempting to create something in a quick amount of time, I think I've said before that I'm over the summer going to be 9 days at a college nearby studying film production and screenwriting. And I was looking at the agenda recently where it says 48-second film festival, which is genuinely just you make a 48-second film, no dialogue no dialogue, and that whole day is you and a group of people. Hopefully I find my own community like Matias and Jack were saying, but yeah, that whole time we're gonna be working together and making something meaningful in like 48 seconds. And there's a bunch of other fun things on the agenda for the 9 days that I'm gonna be there. But hopefully, in relating to college, I get more of a college experience, and like I'm gonna be rooming with someone, just as Jack and Matias did. And I'm not saying that I like really want this to happen, but like I'm saying hopefully I find something that I can work with, or someone that's pretty cool that I can collaborate with from there. Because I don't necessarily, I've said this again before on the podcast, if I had filmmaking friends, they would be on this podcast, and Jalen was one of them. And yeah, hopefully new people are gonna be coming on. Not gonna set up expectations, but yeah, hopefully that's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, and don't put pressure on yourself if they don't turn out to be the exact same community. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it took them; they found it in college, so
yeah.
Whatever. Hopefully you find
I did
some kind of connection.
I should have mentioned that to them. Oh well, thank you for watching. My name is Matthew, and I have been that young Cineast. That has been Kaylin. Those were Matias and Jack.
I just raised my hand, and no one knew that you were raising your hands because your camera's dead.
My camera's dead. Bye-bye.
Bye.